Hello and welcome to the Scottish Exhibition and Conference Centre here in Glasgow. I'm Rory Tate.
And I'm Bethany Forbes. And we're here for the first ever meeting of the Scottish Cabinet with young voters from across Scotland.
In the hall next door we have around 150 people between the ages of 16 and 23, some of who will be voting for the first time and have come on to put their questions to the Scottish Government. The First Minister, Alex Salmond, is leading a team of ministers who are going to be taking questions and listening to the views of young people, most of who I suspect have yet to make up their mind in which way to vote in the independence referendum taking place on the 18th of September.
The Scottish Government has been travelling all over Scotland, meeting with the public to take questions on what their vision of an independent Scotland would look like. They've set out plans in this document here, Scotland's Future. A fairly heavy document. Have you read it yet, Rory?
It is a pretty big book, but I've managed to memorise every single page.
I'll take that as a no then.
Yeah, maybe not.
And I suspect that most of the audience here have not gone through it either, so today gives them a chance to ask their questions and give their opinions directly to the people who run Scotland.
There are going to be a series of roundtable meetings where each Scottish Government Minister will meet a group of 20 people for 20 minutes. We've been told that no subject is off limits this afternoon and the ministers have no idea what's going to be asked of them.
Could get interesting.
Yes,
then.
it certainly could. And they then come back together at the end of these roundtable sessions for a group question and answer session led by the First Minister himself.
We have reporters who are going to be at each table and are going to join us to share what they've heard at these roundtable discussions. We're also going to go live to some of the tables to listen in on what is being said.
I'm certainly looking forward to that.
And we also hope to bring in some guests from Young Scot, Youth Link and the Scottish Youth Parliament to chat about the events and opportunities like today. So now we're joined by Nicola Sturgeon, the Deputy First Minister. So Nicola, I guess the first question that we need to ask you is, events like these, what's the importance of them?
I think it's really important for members of the government to get out and about and speak to people about the reasons that we believe Scotland should be an independent country, and young people have got a big voice in this referendum. 16 and 17-year-olds are getting to vote for the first time in a national election or referendum, so it's really important that we hear what's important to young people, and the young people here get the chance to ask us questions. I think it's going to be a really exciting day, a really fun day as well.
Now you talk about the sort of 16 and 17-year-olds are able to vote, and we've got this big book, Scotland's Future. It's massive. It's not really sort of the type of thing that any 16, 17, maybe even 18, right up to 25, 26 are going to want to read through that. So sort of what can be done to make all the information that's necessary available to young people?
My 16-year-old nephew's got a copy of it and he tells me he's slowly reading through it, but every time I see it in his bedroom it looks as if it's completely unopened, but you know, he tells me he's reading it. We're trying to make that as accessible as possible, so although it's a big book because it's designed to give people as much information as possible in one place, you can go online and you can search for the thing that's most important to you, and we're producing today a summary of it, particularly geared towards young people, to give them some of the answers to questions in an accessible format. So what we're trying to do is make the information and the answers to questions available in whatever form is most convenient for people. So if people want the weight of information, they can get it. If they want something that's short and sharp, they can get that as well.
Yep, and so on another topic, say education. A lot of people talk about further education, like unis and uni fees. What do you think is going to happen if we become an independent Scotland?
Well, education's a good example of why decisions are best taken in Scotland, because the Scottish Parliament is already responsible for most education policy, and I think while we don't get everything right, I think the fact that we can take decisions here is a good thing, and it means that we can get things right for our circumstances. And one example of that is that unlike students elsewhere in the UK, students here don't have to pay tuition fees to go to university, and we want to make sure that stays the case in an independent Scotland. I mean, I remember when I went to university, I would never have been able to go to uni if I'd had to pay fees, and I don't think as a politician now I've got any right to deprive any other young person of that right to education.
And just sort of talking about sort of university and opportunities, I'm a former Wonder Apprentice myself, and sort of a Wonder Apprenticeship was that great way to sort of learn and earn at the same time, and it's been a great stepping stone for me to get into university. So is there any sort of plans to sort of, if we were to become independent, that like there'd be more modern apprenticeships or be more push for them?
Well, we've got record numbers of modern apprenticeships in Scotland already. Angela Constance is the Minister for Youth Employment. I think we're the only government across Europe that's got a minister dedicated to helping young people get into employment. I'm sure she'll be taking lots of questions today from young people, but the benefit of independence is that it puts all of the economic powers we need in our own hands, so that we're able to create the opportunities for young people, not just through apprenticeships, but to get into jobs, to get into, high value jobs. I mean, one of the reasons we want to have the ability to have a competitive business tax rate so that we're able to encourage more businesses to set up their headquarters here so that young people can get to the top of their careers without necessarily having to leave Scotland if they want to stay here and raise their families here.
For a future of an independent Scotland, if it was to go through, what would your future vision be for young people, especially with their opportunities and their way of progressing into the future?
Well, I want to see a Scotland where every young person's got the chance to fulfil their own potential, and I know that sounds a wee bit trite and cliched, but that's what every country should aspire to. I want to live in a Scotland where young people have got total belief in and confidence in their own abilities. I don't want us anymore to have to kind of argue over whether we've got what it takes to be independent. Young people are the future of this country. I've got confidence in our own young people to be the leaders of an independent Scotland, to take this country forward to bigger, better, greater things. And being independent means we don't have to question our ability to do that anymore. We can be in charge of our own destiny.
Well, Deputy First Minister, thank you very much for joining us.